I've been wanting to do another 24-hour reading challenge since the last one that I did back in spring, and it's currently Labor Day weekend in America, so I get Monday out of classes, and so it's 3 days that I was thinking I could potentially film this video. Now I actually wanted and did start this video yesterday, but it was just not working out. Number one was raining so hard yesterday. The light in my apartment was so dark and terrible for filming. I also woke up that time of the month with my cycle, so I was feeling so sick, so bedridden yesterday, and just no energy to pick up the camera and film. And I won't lie, today I'm still feeling a bit tired, a bit kind of just like want to lie in bed, but that also kind of works for this video because I am supposed to be in bed for hours reading in this video. So you know what? I thought today I would pick up the camera, start this vlog. So welcome to my third 24-hour reading challenge with me. I do enjoy them usually because it allows me to catch up on reading goals or something like that. It is currently August 31st, literally the last day of August, and tomorrow is Labor Day. So I technically, if I read a book or two today, can add more books to my August wrap up before the month officially closes. And then if I continue this tomorrow, which is my intention, I can start September with a couple of books under my belt. So all in all, perfect time to do this, to end out August with a bang and start September a little bit ahead, hopefully. We're reading for 24 hours. That's plenty of time to read a couple books. Now I'm not going to be reading for 24 hours straight. It is actually noon right now on Sunday because I had to go to church and volunteer this morning. I could not start filming very early in the morning, so it's currently noon. And my plan is to film 12 hours today from noon to midnight, and then tomorrow I will film the other 12 hours that I need to make up. And we will just see, to be honest. I don't know how this is going to go completely, but we will just see how much I can read in a 24-hour time span. Now, reading-wise, I'm currently 50% of the way through a book that I started yesterday. Like I said, I was not feeling well, but I did do some reading. I started on my Kindle, which is actually crazy for me. I've not been reading anything on my Kindle recently. I feel like the last Kindle book that I read was Time of Our Lives, which I read in the end of June. No, July. End of July, sorry. But like, I've been on such a physical book kick recently. I've wanted to be holding my books physically or audiobook listening to them. That Kindle reading has just not been it, which is fine. But I'm currently reading a book that's on KU, and I got the audiobook for free, so I wanted to pick it up digitally. And that is The Wolf King by Lauren, I forgot her last name, starts with a P. I've heard amazing things about this book, and I watched Heather McClary's vlog last night of her reading books 1 and 2 in the series, and I was like, you know what? She's convinced me, she's done it. And I got halfway through with a mix of audiobook and Kindle reading. So this is what I'm going to start out the video with today. It's going by so fast. It's like 475-ish pages, I think. So it's kind of a, you know, medium-sized book, but the audiobook is great. It's spoken well. The audiobook has accents to it, so I'm just like obsessed because the guy is, I think, Scottish, and it's so hot. And also the book itself is just really, really enjoyable. It's such a fast-paced plot. I'll talk to you more about it in a little bit, but that's what we're starting with. Now, as far as my like TBR for the rest of the weekend, these are all potentials. I'm not gonna set like, you have to read this, because then I will like get bored and not actually want to keep reading. Anyway, yeah, but my hopefuls for this weekend are, the first one is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I just bought this book last weekend at Half Price Books. I have such high hopes for this because everyone says amazing things about this book, but I have never read, I've read a couple sci-fis, that's a lie, but I haven't read one that I specifically can think of as like really enjoying. And this one is very much out of my comfort zone, but I still want to read it sometime soon because Ryan Gosling stars in the movie coming out in spring, and I want to say that I read the book before I watched the movie. So this one's definitely on the list. It's also pretty short. It's like 450 is not that short, but it's not a super long book is what I'm trying to say here, so that is an option for us. Option 2 is actually like really shocking. I don't know why I feel in the mood to read this, but I have the first book in the Divergent series, which I did read in middle school, but whenever I was packing all my books to come back to Dallas for the apartment, I was thinking to myself, I should bring the Divergent series with me. I didn't bring it with me to the dorm last year, but maybe I want to reread it. I don't know. So I brought this one and I'm thinking about potentially picking it up. The nice thing is because it is a reread for me and it's not a long book at all, and the font is huge and the margins are huge, it should be an easy read for me to get through and get through a lot of pages very quickly for this challenge. But again, it just like depends on what I'm feeling at the time of, you know, switching to another book. The last one that's like a potential here, and these are all physical books. I do have like a long list of books I could also read on my Kindle, but again, recently I've been in much more of a physical book mood, so we'll have to see. But I do have Quicksilver with me. This book is ginormous. It was actually on my TBR like a month or two ago and I never actually got to it. This is like 600 pages, so if I had to pick this one up, it would probably be the last one I pick up, so it doesn't take up the entire video just reading one book. But I do really want to read this before Brimstone comes out in like a month or two, but it will take me much longer through because the font is much smaller and it is just a long book. So we will have to see. But those are like potentials, you know, and we'll just kind of see what I get to in the rest of this video. I hope you're excited. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any more videos, reading vlogs, book, talking, opinion, whatever videos from me. And yeah, without any further ado, I'm going to jump back into The Wolf King and get to reading. It's been a couple hours and I'm currently 70% of the way through The Wolf King, so I thought I would update you guys on plot and everything before I end up finishing it. I won't lie, past couple hours I've been reading very slowly, trying not to fall asleep. I don't know why, but for some reason, like this month, my cycle, I've just been so sleepy. I fell asleep yesterday, took a nap randomly in the middle of the day. I'm a person that like never naps for some reason, and then when I do, I have trouble falling asleep at night, but then I fell asleep fine last night, so I've just been like so tired and just so exhausted. I had my first week of classes. Maybe that's like causing it because I'm not used to being back in the schedule of class. Oh look, there's a squirrel outside. I'm actually a dog. Anyway, not the point. The point is the book. Wolf King. I've wanted to read this for a long time. I've heard amazing things about it. And like I said, Heather McClary convinced me with her reading vlog yesterday. She binged the entire like 2 books in like 2 or 3 days. And I was like, you know what? I could use a bingeable book because the last book that I read took me like a week to read and it was way too long. So anyway, we follow our main character, Aurora. Her name's Princess Aurora, but she goes by Rory in this book. She is the daughter of a king, the human king, and she is betrothed to this awful snake of a man named Sebastian, who intends to, you know, claim her as his and do whatever he wants to her on their wedding day, which is in a couple days, and she's terrified, but she has no other choice because her father is making her do it. And so the first scene we open up, we get those just horrendous men, absolutely nasty scum of the earth people, and their conversation that she is listening to while like on a dais somewhere, and there's like a fighting ring in front of them, and we notice that there are people coming to fight each other, but they're not humans, they're wolves that have been captured and basically forced to fight each other to the death for the entertainment of the humans. So, you know, really great things happening in this human country. So she watches as 2 wolves come out. One is like very obviously younger, but he is like chin up, very determined, and then there's another one who is big, brutish, tall, handsome. You see where I'm going with this? And they fight, and it's obvious that the big one is going to win, and she's like, oh my gosh, stop, don't kill him. And she makes a big scene about it, and so, as she should, because it's absolutely cruel what they're making them do. Sebastian is basically like, you know what, if my future wife wants it, fine, I'll give her this. And so he lets them both go back to the kennels, which is nasty. She basically follows them eventually, goes and checks up on the younger one because he is very injured from the fight. He didn't die, but he's on the brink of death, and while trying to help him heal in the kennels, the big one, who we find out later, his name is Callum, he starts talking to Rory. He's like, why are you here? You shouldn't be here. He decides that he is going to take her with him when he basically sieges the castle and escapes with the other wolves from his clan. So, long story short, he is the alpha of his clan. This is sounding like verging on a megaverse here, but I mean, like, you know, they're werewolves, so whatever. And he is going to take Ryan, who is the younger wolf, and Rory and escape the castle. But the way he does it is very much like he promises her that he will let no one touch her. He will be there to protect her, because Sebastian, obviously, even though he is part of her kingdom, is very obviously there for malicious intent and is going to hurt her. And Callum wants absolutely nothing to do with that. So he takes her, he takes care of her, they leave. She's of course putting up a little bit of a fight, but she recognizes that maybe this is the safer option of the two. And then we follow them into the woods. And as they journey to the Wolf Kingdom, and as she kind of figures out more about the Wolf Kingdom, more about him, and sees freedom outside of a human palace, it reminds me of From Blood and Ash, but more heavily werewolf. I really wish that I read a little bit more in the past couple hours. Like I said, I've been reading very slowly, but that's a me problem because I've just been like, you know, trying not to fall asleep. But the book itself is really addicting, really predictable. You know, it's nothing so original, but it's so enjoyable. And there's actually inklings maybe of a love triangle in this. I didn't think there was going to be, but we meet Callum, and then we also meet this other guy named Blake. And I'm like, I really do like Callum as of right now. He's done nothing wrong, but I'm also thinking, Blake. So I don't know. I feel like this might be a situation where we love triangle. We'll have to see. This is eventually going to be a series. Books 1 and 2 are out. I think there's going to be a third, maybe a fourth. I don't know if it's a trilogy, like a full series, but there's more to come. So yeah, that's that. They're both on KU, by the way. If you want to check them out, they are on Kindle Unlimited. And like I said, I got the audiobook through Libro FM as well. So I'm actually going to pop on the audiobook right now. I need to go do some chores around the house. I'm also kind of hungry, so I want to go eat something. So I'm going to go do that. But again, I'm not going to not read. I'm going to keep my audiobook on with me. So I will continue listening. Did I tell you guys that the audiobook has a Scottish accent? I think I did, right? It's hot, I won't lie. And side tangent as well, the whole love triangle thing with Blake and Callum. Callum is like big, bulky. He's a big boy, you know, and he's like blonde. And I imagine him with like a scruff to his face as well. Whereas Blake is like, I feel a little, he's still bulky, but a little slimmer, and he's like darker hair, darker, mysterious kind of persona. And I've been thinking this recently. I love a tall, dark, and handsome main character or love interest. I really, really do. Nothing wrong with it. But I feel like in fantasy books, we really should start writing more diverse love interests. Like, number one, more culturally, racially diverse, 100%. Can we not have all the characters in every fantasy book be white, please? I need to like diversify my reads like purposefully, me as well, and like choose books with more diverse characters, but it's so hard when all the popular books are like white girl with long dark hair, white boy who's a little bit tan, so maybe it's culturally ambiguous, and he has long dark hair and he's 6'5". Like, I love it. I love that guy, but I want more different types of love interests. And I also don't like how the blonde character is automatically like crossed off the list. Like, they can't be blonde. Like, I'm here for a blonde character, you know, I'm here for a redhead, I'm here for a buzz cut, braids, like I don't care, you know, I want different types of love interests. Let's put different types of people for our FMCs and our MMCs, to be honest. I want to be able to see myself as the main character. I want other people who look differently from me to also see themselves as main characters, besides being like the side character, you know, and I'm sick of that. So authors, if you're listening to me, please do me a favor and write more diverse characters and love interests and FMCs and all of the above. And I also need to do my best to diversify my own readings as well. So if you have any suggestions of fantasy books specifically, because I feel like it's easier to find contemporaries that are more diverse, but fantasy books specifically that have more diverse characters in it, I would love a recommendation or two in the comments below. I really would. But with that being said, I'm going to go get working on my chores. So I need to do laundry and stuff like that, boring things, but let's get to it.
I think James was you that got when they visited, and your time to this on. I haven't told him about you yet.
Almost exactly 6 hours after starting this challenge, and I have officially completed book 1, The Wolf King. Now, mind you, I was partway through this book when I started the video. So 6 hours for about 250 pages is definitely very slow. It's quite slow, I won't lie. Not trying to like, you know, push myself to do anything crazy, but I feel like that's a little slower than I usually read. So just a little bit about that, you know, but I am happy to say that I finished another book before August ends. The Wolf King was really good, and I enjoyed the audiobook so much with this. And yeah, we're already a quarter way into the challenge, having finished a book, which is great. Now, I think as far as my ratings with this one, I'm going to to give it 4 stars. It was a really, really good book. So much fun. Very predictable, which is probably why it's a 4 star, not like a 4.5 pushing 5. But like, I honestly couldn't fault it for anything else. The plot was enjoyable. The characters were great. The accents were obviously great. The audiobook and the ebook both read really well, very quickly. The pacing of the book was really nice because it never lagged, you know, it never was slow. I didn't feel like we were told and not shown things, which is a problem I have a lot with fantasy books. It didn't feel like that. It felt like I was very much, you know, shown everything I needed to, but it also wasn't so slow that I got bored at points. It was like perfectly paced, but perfect length. And yeah, I have to add this to my list of series I have to continue, not have to continue, but like my series to continue list, which I just did a vlog a couple weeks ago trying to lower that number, that list, from like 18 to like 15 or 16. And now it is back up to 18, 19 because I have started a couple series since I finished that vlog. And this is one of them. So I'm going to put The Night Prince on my list of series to continue. That's book 2 in this series. Hopefully it's good. I've heard that it's better than book 1. So crossing my fingers that maybe that could be a 4.5 or something. But yeah, Wolf King, 4 stars. So good. Also, I will say a plot just at the very, very end, like the last chapter. Everything was very predictable up to that point, I feel. But like the very, very last chapter, that plot twist that we got with a certain someone and a certain bond, I was like, yeah, I think I know where we're gonna head towards in book 2. I have some ideas. I don't want to read it right now because I have a hard time reading books like back to back in the same series. I feel like I get bored of them if I read them all in quick succession, so I like to switch things up. So speaking of, the next book I think I'm gonna pick up, let me see if this is crazy, but let me see if Divergent has an audiobook on Spotify. It does have an audiobook on Spotify. We love to see it. I don't want to like only listen to audiobooks, but it's nice to like be able to listen to it when I do other things. So I think this is crazy. I know I haven't read this book in probably 6 or 7 years, but I'm having the inkling to pick up book 1 for some reason. So, and it's also be a really quick read to add to this video. So I think I'm gonna pick up Divergent and start reading that for this vlog and go back and forth between the audiobook while I'm like doing chores and stuff, which by the way, I said I was going to do chores whenever I talked to you in my last clip. I didn't do anything. I was on my phone trying to add widgets and change my wallpaper on my phone, and then I was snacking, and then I was in here on my computer doing some Goodreads reorganization when I was listening to the audiobook. Like I wasn't doing anything productive that I was supposed to be doing, but that being said, I do still have laundry to do and dishes to do, and it'd be nice to listen to the audiobook while I do that. I'm looking over here at my bookshelf because that's where Divergent is, but I think I'm gonna pick that book up and read that one next, kind of jump back into the world of Triss and 4. It's been a hot second, but I have watched the movie more recently, so I know what happens, but I kind of want to just like feel the vibes again, you know, just for like a fun little mood read. So I bet you weren't expecting this one in the 24-hour reading vlog, but let's pick up Divergent. 3.5 hours later since I last talked to you, and we are about 40% of the way through Divergent. I've just been listening to the audiobook while I ate my dinner, did some laundry. The washer in our apartment right now is currently broken. Yeah, so I did have to hand wash my entire load from last week. It's currently in the dryer because the dryer technically works, but I really need someone from maintenance to get their butts out here and fix our stuff. In the meantime though, I was just trying to get my stuff over there. Oh, also, really big update in my life. I changed my iOS widget. My phone now looks like this, lock screen and home screen. I think it looks real cute for September. Now let's talk about Divergent in specific. I currently am about to start chapter 15. So we've gotten through all the basics. You know, she had her test. She did her, what's it called? Choosing day, where she chose Dauntless. By the way, if you haven't read Divergent, I might speak some spoilers, but the books have been out for so long, the movies have been out for so long. I feel like if you haven't gotten around to it at this point, that's a you problem. You know what I'm saying? I'm kidding. I won't say anything too spoilery, but basic stuff, like the fact that she chose Dauntless, like I'm gonna say that because it's very well known at this point. So we got past that. She's met her friend Christina. She's met friends like Al and Will. She's in Dauntless camp training. We got the jumping off the train scene. We got the Ferris wheel scene. We got the knife scene on her ear, which by the way, 4 is without a doubt the best character in this entire book. And before you even question it, yes, I absolutely am picturing the characters from the movie whenever I read this again. And therefore I am picturing lovely, amazing, gorgeous Theo James whenever I'm reading this book as 4. in this book, and that man, he could do anything he wanted to me. He is so fine. He is by far my favorite character. I don't care what anyone says. Tris can be quite annoying, but that's what you get when you reread a YA book from middle school. You know, you kind of have to get past the she's a little annoying parts, which by the way, I actually thought that I read this in middle school. Turns out I think I read this in high school. Crazy, because I was looking back on my Goodreads and I had written a review for this series in 2020, and I was in 10th grade in 2020. So I was like, hello? That seems like way too short of a time period. I feel like I read these books way before then. So I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's that I got Goodreads in 2020 and like started recording all my books then. But like also, why would I have the date, like the specific date that I read this, if I was just like dumping all of my past books in one fell swoop? I don't know. I'm not quite sure. It's been a while, at least. It's been at least 5 years. 4 years. 5 years. The writing is very basic, you know, and I kind of expected that going back into a YA book that I haven't read in a couple years. Like I didn't expect the writing to be phenomenal. I do think that the pacing is quite fast, faster than I remember. Like I feel like every scene we're like barely getting through it and we're flipping to the next one, which is nice, I guess, because it never stalls and drags, but I would like a little bit more time sometimes with some of the scenes, preferably the ones with 4 in them, maybe. As far as Tris as main character, like I said, she can get a little annoying. She can, and we kind of all expected that. She's not insufferable, though, and that's nice. Bare minimum. She makes the decisions that a 16-year-old would make in a situation like this. So, you know, I can't fault her for being just a tad bit annoying, because that's what 16-year-olds usually are, coming from someone who was 16 not too long ago. But do I intend to reread the rest of this series? No. And I honestly wasn't going to whenever I started this one either. This didn't really change my mind in that fact, but I did want to reread book 1 because I think it is everyone's favorite. It is just the best book because it really goes downhill from there in the rest of the series. I also know that Veronica Roth has written some novellas or short books recently. I think it's called One Among Crows is book 1, and it's like a duology or something. Haven't read either of these books. I think the second one just came out though, so I'm not really that far behind. And I really would love to compare Veronica Roth's writing from like, when did she write this? This edition is published in 2012. I'm not quite sure when the first edition was published, but yeah, I'd be curious to see over the past decade how much her writing has changed. I am positive it's matured a lot, and I've really heard good things about One Among Crows, although it's not a very popular book, but I'd be interested to read that one too. So maybe that'll be later this year activity. But for now, we have the rest of Divergent to read together, and I truly think that I can get through a good chunk of this, maybe not all of it, but hopefully a good chunk of it in the next like 2.5 hours before we hit midnight. I am going to get into my PJs. I'm gonna get comfortable in my bed and cross the fingers that we don't fall asleep as I continue to read the rest of this book. Good morning, besties. Happy Monday. How are we? Currently, I started the timer this morning at 9:15, so we are about 2 hours into our second leg of our 24-hour reading challenge, and I'm feeling rejuvenated today. I slept well, which is why I love splitting the challenge up into 2 days, because I feel like it's nice to have that little break in between. I feel excited about reading, and I have some book updates as well as some errands I need to run today that I will take you with me on. So, number one, let's let's start with Divergent. Did I finish this book last night? No, I did not. But I didn't on purpose because I actually got to the 50% mark in this book. I got to page 250, something like that, because it's almost 500 pages. And I decided to put the book down on purpose. I was like, you know what? I'm reading this. It's going really well. I wanted to finish it yesterday, but I don't know if I was keeping my interest enough to just stay reading for 2 hours before bed, just reading Divergent. So I said, let me pause this one and pick up something else, and I will come back to this in the morning. So yeah, I got halfway through this yesterday, and then before I went to bed, I picked up A Stark View on my Kindle, another Kindle read for me. This was on my August TBR. Now, technically, as of today, it is Labor Day, so it is September, so I won't be reading this in August, but it was a book that I wanted to read last month, so I picked it up last night just to start it, and I got about 5 chapters, like 10 or 15% of the way through this book before my timer went off and I fell asleep. So I think you guys saw just a couple clips of that last night. This morning I woke up and I immediately jumped back into Divergent because I want to finish this book first, and currently I'm 100 pages from the end. I'm on page 378 in this book. I'm not quite sure what percent that is, but if you just look, like, this is what I have left, and I've read all of that big chunk. So nearing that home stretch with this one, and honestly, the ending of this book, or the second half at least, picks up more than the first. We get more forest scenes. We get that fantastic, honestly probably the best scene in this entire book, where they go through Four's fear simulation together. Love that scene because it reveals so much. And honestly, although I do have qualms with the writing style, a couple of things mentioned, like I think a little bit of this book is just a teensy bit fat phobic. I'm like, that's interesting. Why are we talking about Al like that? Not that Al is the best character ever by any means. If you know what happens to him, you know what happens to him. But I will just say that they kind of talked about him a little weirdly because he's a big boy. But anyway, oh, and there's also this scene too where Four and Triss are like talking alone, and Triss is like, I'm not pretty, and like, you know, commenting on her own body, and Four is like, yeah, you're not, but I like you anyway. And I'm like, my God, Four, pull it together. Tell her she's beautiful, or you think that she's beautiful or something. If I was talking to a guy and he told me, yeah, you're ugly, but I still like you, I think I would dock him in the face and like never talk to him again. That's crazy. But I do also have to keep in mind YA book from the early 2010s. Things are a little different now. It's just funny to me like how dumb sometimes characters can act, but I still love Four. He's still the best character in this book, even though he's a little stupid in that way. But nonetheless, 100 pages left of this book. I will be finishing this definitely today. It shouldn't take me very long to get through. There's probably like another hour and a half to finish this book. I say that, and yet I wanted to finish this book last night. So, I mean, like, do I really have a good grasp on how fast I read? Probably not. My estimations are all over the place, but I do still plan to finish this at some point today. However, I also got the audiobook for A Stark View on Audible. It was literally $5. I was like, oh, yeah, I'll get it for $5. Yeah, A Stark View I'm also in the middle of. I'm 20% of the way through this one as we speak because I read a little bit while I was getting ready this morning. Let's talk about this book. So this is coincidentally another dystopian post-apocalyptic book, kind of similar to Divergent in that way. For some reason, I'm kind of feeling this like dystopian vibe today. I don't know why, but I'm gonna lean into it. And also because this book is not very long, it's like 360, 70 pages, so it'll be a quick and easy read for our challenge today. We follow our main character, Kalani, who has been put into a prison. It starts with a B, I forgot the name of the prison, but it's basically she has been condemned for a crime that she allegedly didn't commit. They're saying that she stole a very important book from the archives of the city Apollo. She's like, I didn't do it, but she is not going to throw anyone else under the rug. She just said that I'm innocent, and they're like, you're guilty. Actually, throw her in, and they toss her in the prison, and she is stuck there indefinitely. Now, this is a post-apocalyptic underground prison, so as you can imagine, they are not very nice to the prisoners. This is not a great place to be. You're not going to escape. You're going to be brutalized, and you're just going to have to deal with it, even though you're innocent from this crime. At least she says she's innocent. Is she? Is she not? We're not sure. But basically, Kalani is marked as prisoner. I think it's 314, and she hates the fact that they call her by her number and not her name to basically dehumanize her, but that's kind of expected in this like prisoner trope, I suppose. So she is stuck down here basically doing manual labor, eating disgusting food, avoiding cockroaches, and trying not to get tased by the guards in this prison for the foreseeable future. And as far as I know, that's the plot, and that's all I've got so far from 20%. I am looking forward to a bunch of really interesting plot twists because I've heard that this one is quite twisty, and I've heard really, really good things about it, so I'm crossing my fingers that it's good. Also, there is supposedly a love interest. I think his name is Tadashi? Oh, the prison, by the way, is called Braiderhelm. And the guy's name is Takeshi. Takeshi Steele is the main or head guard, I guess, of her block in the prison. And he is definitely a guard, definitely an enemy, definitely tased her once or twice because of things that she said, which definitely don't approve of, but also like enemies to lovers, hello, of course, they're gonna have to be a little bit mean to each other for the beginning part, and then I'm sure he'll become the love interest. So like maybe she's finding some secrets and revealing some buried truths about the society that they live in, and maybe he's also on the good side, and maybe they partner up and work together. I don't know. That's very much the plot of Divergent, but it's also the plot of every other enemies to lovers in a dystopian book, and I am here for it. I want to know the secret, I want to know the plot twist, and I hope this is a good read. So those are the two books I'm currently in the middle of. 20% in A Stark Few, 77, almost 80% in Divergent, and I will definitely be finishing both today. And I need to end this clip because I'm rambling. So, chop chop, let's go. With 5 hours left in the challenge, so at the 19-hour mark, we officially finished our second book of the video, but we are halfway through, 50% through A Stark Few as well, so it didn't quite take me 19 hours to do only 2 books. We kind of did 2.5, but we were also only halfway through the first book. Never mind, it did take us 19 hours to do 2 books. Oh well, I'm gonna stop harping on myself being a little slower than intended because we are still getting books read in this video, and that is the important part. Divergent. Let's talk about her, shall we? I just finished her a matter of minutes ago, and before we even get into it, I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm giving this book 3 stars, and then I'm actually going to put Insurgent and Allegiant. I'm just going to take off the star rating that I gave them originally. I looked back on my Goodreads, and I'd given this one 5, Insurgent 5, and Allegiant 4 stars, and as of right now, those numbers are definitely changed, but of course, I am like a much different person reading this book now than I did originally, so I have to keep that in mind. So on the reread, this is 3.5 stars. The other 2, I don't want to give them star ratings when I haven't given them a refreshed opinion, a refreshed look at them. All that to say though, this was actually an enjoyable read. I told you I had the inkling, the craving to reread it, so I did, and I didn't expect anything amazing, incredible to come out of this book, but I do think that there is a reason that Divergent is so popular, so hyped, even a decade after it is published, why the movies are so well watched, things like that. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention this, but I do have 2 casualties on my nails. I lost 2 soldiers today, fallen soldiers, but I will put them back on later, so if that bothers you and I'm holding up the book, sorry. Anywho, yeah, there's a reason why this is so popular, and it's because it genuinely is like a pretty decent plot. I feel like it's nothing that we haven't seen before now in 2025, but at the time when I first read this and before when it was first published, like I feel like this was the start or some of the start of that classic dystopian literature that came around the time as like Hunger Games, of course, and then other books like Shatter Me, which you guys know how much I dislike Shatter Me, but that's besides the point. This was still, you know, pretty good. I think there's a lot of merit to this book. The stuff about fear simulations, I feel like that was a really cool part of this book that I really enjoyed rereading about, you know, how people have to fight against their own fears, and in the simulation, how are you going to overcome it? You can't just succumb to it, things like that. I'm trying to say these things very vaguely just in case someone hasn't read this book at this point and still wants to. I will admit, okay, the ending is really rushed. It's really, really rushed. I didn't feel the emotion behind the losses that occurred. I felt like the pacing was much faster in the last 100 pages than it was the rest of the book, which was kind of annoying because the last 100 pages was the most important part of the book if you talk about entire series worth of plot. So definitely some plot twists in this coming towards the end that if this was the first time I was reading this book would definitely have shocked me. But again, I wish that they happened a little earlier so we could have had more time to really delve into those things, because a lot of the training and stuff in the middle and beginning, it's important, it's good, it's enjoyable, but it could have been moved past faster in my opinion to get to all the juicy drama at the very together. And speaking of, another really good scene in this book, besides them going through 4's fear simulation together, is at the very end. This is a minor spoiler, okay? So skip this timestamp here on the screen. It'll be really quick if you don't want to hear it. I'm telling you right now, you have a chance to skip in 3, 2, 1. Okay, spoiler real quick. The part where Janine, there you go, gives 4 the new serum that can counteract divergence, and so he becomes the controllable robot that gets to control all of the dauntless who are terrorizing the abnegation. And then whenever she gets up to the top room, sees him at the control desk, and he turns around and starts like holding a gun to her head, the amount of tension and good scene, really good scene. I wish it lasted longer. I wish we had more time to kind of just sit in it, because he literally almost shot her in the head and then she basically almost lets him, in a way, to like give her self-control, and then he's like, oh my gosh, wait a second, this is Triss, and releases himself from the serum. That is a good plot twist. That's a really good ending. Why didn't we spend a little more time in that one? Oh, also, while we're still in spoiler section, all the deaths, like Will and her 2 parents that were just killed, went over them real quick, real fast, and she literally was the one to shoot Will in the first place. I was like, we really should have lingered a little more in this. I don't remember if we linger more in that in book 2 and her grief and her processing all of that in the beginning of book 2. I don't remember, and again, I'm not going to reread it right now, but it was just curious to me how fast you went through all of that. Anyway, spoilers done. That was a really quick little side tangent. All I want to say though is that amongst its flaws, like the writing was very boring. Triss can be a little bit annoying at times, and some things that were said were just a little weird, I won't lie. But besides things like that, in general, this is a classic YA dystopian book. Obviously, it's like the start of the dystopian era in the 2010s, and it deserves all the awards and all the hype that I got, in my opinion, for what it is. So it's not a perfect book by any means, but it's a 3.5 star for me, and you know what? I'm happy that I read it in today's challenge. So now that my craving is officially satisfied, I can consider this book done. The rest of the challenge, or at least my next step in the challenge, is to finish A Stark Few. I am currently halfway through, so as far as plot goes, she has started to learn to fight. She wanted Takeshi to teach her how to fight, so we get the classic teaching you how to fight trope that we get in so many fantasy books, and in this case a dystopian book too. So yeah, I'm on chapter 17 out of like 31, and it says I have 3 hours and 45 minutes left in this book if I start right now and just read straight at the speed that the Kindle thinks that I'm reading at, I suppose. I never really take those times seriously, because sometimes I'll like read at night, fall asleep, wake up, and my time has like severely lengthened because the Kindle was on and stuck on like 1 page for like an hour. I do have about 5 hours, a little bit under 5 hours left in this challenge, so I do intend to finish this tonight. My goal though is to get further on this. I am really liking A Stark Few so far. It's interesting to read literally 2 kind of similar dystopian books at the exact same time. I mean, they have very different plots to them. One is in a prison, one is with the faction, initiation things, like very separate, but they do have the same underlying concept of, hey, it's post-apocalyptic, our world, our society has been torn to shreds, we need to find the secrets and fix it. And so reading them literally simultaneously is kind of funny to switch my mind back and forth between the 2 very similar but also noticeably different plots. I do think that the writing is a little bit better in A Stark Few, but I also think that this is an adult book written in like 2023 compared to a YA book written a decade earlier, so I have to keep that in mind as far as the writing goes. But I do think if I was to recommend a book to someone like me who reads like me, I probably would lean more towards recommending A Stark Few, at least as far as I've read so far in this one. I definitely still want to obviously complete it and give my final thoughts at the end. So without further ado, let me get to reading A Stark Few. Dang it, that rhymed. I hate when I accidentally say things that rhyme. I sound like Dr. Seuss, which is not at all my intention, but sometimes it happens that way. This lighting may in fact be atrocious, but I really don't care at this point. I've been filming for 2 days. We're gonna call it good. enough, all right? But we have finally finished our 24-hour reading challenge. I'm excited. I'm very excited because it was successful. Did I read 4 books? No. But I read 3, and I read over 1,000 pages, and we read consecutively for 12 hours twice over the span of a weekend. Honestly, win is a win, and these are plenty of wins in my book, so I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Just for a very quick wrap up, I want to speak about my thoughts on A Stark Few real quick. Just finished it a couple minutes ago, and you guys, this book was so good. This was so good. This was everything that Silver Elite wished it was. Argue with the wall, because it's not going to work on me. I gave this book 4.5 stars. It was phenomenal. It was so good. I think 2 wonderful things about this book that made it stand out among other dystopian, post-apocalyptic, enemies to lovers type books. Number 1, A Stark Few had capital Y yearning. Oh my god. Some of the things, I'll read it to you actually, because I want to read a couple quotes out loud. Some of the things that Takeshi and Kalani were saying to each other, and it's so much better too when it's just crumbs, because this book isn't a romance. This is at its core a dystopian book with a subplot of romance. And when you get books like that only give you the smallest crumbs, when you actually get them, you eat them up so much more, and it just makes the tension so much more delicious. Let me read you a couple of my annotations. These are not really spoilery, but they are direct quotes from the book past the 50% mark. So if you don't want to hear that, skip ahead maybe like a minute. But there is one point when Takeshi says to her, "I know I shouldn't say this, but your beauty is so overwhelming that it makes me ache. It is more than physical. It is who you are as a person. That is how I know if your parents are anything like you, they are in heaven too." Like, I'm sorry, he basically is telling her that like he believes in a god and he believes in heaven because of her. No, stop. Actually stop. It's not okay. Later on in the book, he also says, "We were never worlds apart. If we were, you wouldn't be everywhere inside of me. When I look at you, my chest feels like it's about to crack open, and all the emotions I've beaten down to submission come roaring back with a vengeance. For every scar visible on your body, I have to prevent myself from seeking out your assailants and slashing each one of your throats. I've watched you fight through every battle, despite the trials and tragedies you faced, and it never ceases to astound me. Just staring at you right now makes me want to take you in every way imaginable, and nothing about it is innocent." And then afterwards, she says, "You knew I was never innocent. That's why you met me in a prison." No, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. The writing is subtle. It's not the main part of this book, but it really is just so good, and the yearning is palpable, and I just cannot wait till book 2. It's already out. I could read it right now. Probably not going to because I don't want to read series back to back, but book 2, oh my gosh. Okay, I need to stop rambling. The other part of this book that gave me the 4.5 star feeling and why I just love it so much is because this book is genuinely petrifying, like actually scary. There are many references in this book to actual things. They mention the White House. They mention books like Gone with the Wind or movies like Grease. They mention Mona Lisa, the Statue of David, like artifacts and art and historical monuments that we see in modern day. And what's terrifying about this book is this is post-apocalyptic. This is after the entire Earth has been bombed and radiation has covered the planet, and they have all escaped underground to basically fend for their lives. And it's terrifying because it is so close to reality. Like the elements of fascism in this book and the way that they are trying to overcome it, like that's what the main plot of the story is. The elements of like banning books, banning media, banning art and history and artifacts and things like that is such a modern day issue. The problem with the crops failing, climate change, like all this stuff that is brought up in this book, and it's the reason that they are literally underground, are issues that we're looking at in our day-to-day lives and pushing for tomorrow's problem or the next generation's problem. And that is genuinely terrifying because Alexis, babe, the person who wrote this book, she saw what we're looking at right now in our actual lives, and she said, "Let me write a book that shows us what will happen if we don't address these issues." And it's actually so scary to me because what the hell, it was just petrifying. There's a plot twist at the very end of the book that I'm just like, oh, that's that hits a little too close to home right there. And just having this like visceral reaction, I'm literally getting goosebumps, visceral reaction to a book that makes me feel things so deeply is what gives that book that extra half star or full star potentially. So whereas I was going to give this a 4 star throughout like the majority of this book, once I hit the 70% mark and we started getting that scary feeling and we also started getting the yearning like up a notch, that's a 4.5 star read, baby. Absolutely. So with that being said, I love this book. You have to read it if you want a good dystopian dystopian book. Skip Silver Elite. If you like Divergent, read this one. If you haven't picked up Divergent, maybe read this one, but really you need to read A Stark View. This series is underhyped, underrated. I cannot wait to finish the full trilogy and let you know my thoughts. So with that being said, our total of all the books that we read in our 24-hour reading challenge, we started off with The Wolf King. We read the second half of this book together, so it's 250 pages. Then I read the entirety of Divergent for a quick reread, and quick, it took me hours, but this was 487 pages. And then lastly, A Stark View was 321 pages, totaling us at a final count of 1,058 pages over 24 hours. It's a little less than a couple of my last challenges, but it's still over 1,000 pages, and it's still such an accomplishment to read 3 books in the span of 2 days. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It is getting late. I need to go to bed. I also have classes in the morning, so I need to wrap this up. But if you want to watch more reading vlogs and other book content from yours truly, make sure to subscribe. I post new videos basically every single Thursday. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching and for being here. And if you want to watch my last 24-hour reading challenge back in April, either March or April, I'll put that video right here on the screen.